Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Monday morning meditation. So good to see you all today. I have another article to share with you. I'm trying to get it a little bit more tech savvy on my part here. So I'm going to put this link and some of the things I'm going to read just to prepare us for our time and the concept to work with in our meditation time today. It's an article about how science actually backs up the Eastern philosophy that the self that we think we are, our personality self walking around the world doing our thing, is really just a made up construct. And in the West, we believe that it's this stable, manageable experience of who we are. So I guess in the West, we really hold on to that idea that I think, therefore I am, and that my thoughts are part of who I am and my reality. Where in the East, it's almost the reverse. I am a human being, and therefore I think, but it doesn't mean anything. It's not who I am. So just wanted to share some of this because it follows up what we were talking about last week with just not buying into our thoughts. And we've talked about this so many times, not buying into our thoughts, and that understanding being reinforced helps our meditation time, because what's coming up in our meditation time? Our thinking all the time. And so let me just read this from this article, and I'll share the link in our recording of this too when that gets posted. So just the takeaways from this article, you can read the whole thing if you want to. It's very interesting on the left brain and right brain and some experiments that have been done in the past, and why science is backing up this idea that we really aren't who we think we are. That's not publicized, I imagine, very much, because the next question is, well, who am I then, right? And they haven't figured that out. So, who am I as consciousness? Who am I as, depending on your perspective, we're souls in evolution trying to wake up and become more of who we are. So anyway, from the article, which is called Eastern Philosophy Says There Is No Self and Science Agrees. Western philosophy, that's us, typically conceptualizes the self as a stable, controlling entity comparable to a pilot, while Eastern philosophies, such as Buddhism, argue that the self is an illusion, a byproduct of our thought processes. Modern neuroscience provides evidence that aligns with that Eastern view, revealing that the left hemisphere of the brain constantly creates narratives to interpret reality, leading to a mistaken identification with these narratives. The false sense of self, which is often equated with the incessant internal dialogue, anybody relate with that one? Contributes significantly to human mental suffering. So basically what that's saying is that left part of our brain, which we have, if you've read about left brain, right brain, the right brain is the creative part of the brain, the left brain is the logical, rational, methodical part of the brain. So that it's the left part of the brain that creates that narrative of, okay, so now I'm making my bed, and now I'm going to go get my coffee, and now I'm going to sit down for meditation. And it's that part of us. And while some of that narrative is factual, we can be doing these things, there's also the judgmental part of that interpreter, they call it. It's the interpreter. The left brain is the interpreter. The interpreter is not always accurate or great at interpreting things. It's making up its story because the brain, in that part of the methodical, rational part of the brain, loves understanding. It loves thinking that it knows that what it's doing is the right thing to do, because that's a protection. If we're doing the right thing, if we're doing the thing that we think is the right thing to do, the nervous system feels safer, we feel calmer, but it's not necessarily accurate. We could be doing something that we think is the right thing to do, and it turns out like there were 5 other things we could have done better. Who hasn't seen that in their lives? That happens all the time. And it's not because we're wrong, but that interpreter is just, it doesn't have all the information that we think that it has. And the article is saying, here in the West, we've been taught, our philosophy, our worldview over here is that thinker is all important. I mean, look at our schools and, oh my gosh, it's so important for the kids to learn science and math and all the STEM classes, and the critical thinking part isn't as valued. There isn't the value so much in, is this true? Is this a good idea? It's one thing to have mathematical equations or science experiments that reach conclusions, but where's our critical thinking part? And that's the observer self, which comes in and says, okay, I'm watching this interpreter talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and it's not really saying anything, or it isn't always true. And just being able to see that it's not always true can be helpful, because it's helpful when we're looking at the critical voice inside our heads telling us we're doing it wrong all the time, or that we're not okay somehow, or we're being rejected by somebody, or we have to do more, or we're not doing enough, or all the stories that come up around that. And so all this article is saying basically is, don't trust it so much. We're just, in our meditation time, we just let that go and go, I don't know if that's true. And the article talks about the right side of the brain too, which is the doer. The right side of the brain just acts. So whether that action is coming from just our patterns, which often it is, or something that we're being told to do from the outside, which we do all the time. That's why advertising is as successful as it is, right? Because it's like, okay, we're going to tell you that you're not okay. And the interpreter comes and says, oh no, I got to be okay. And then the right brain takes action on that. And sometimes the right brain takes action on what's somebody else says, what is coming up from our subconscious storage, whatever, all of this stuff. So there's a lot of, I share this sometimes with people that we believe our brains are this whole holistically working organ, and our brains are actually compartmentalized in really defined ways. And it's our consciousness, it's our awareness that we're developing in our meditation time that helps the cohesiveness of our self, of our sense of self, of our working self. And, it's that narrator is not in charge. Our awareness is in charge. And if our awareness is identifying with those thoughts coming up, then those thoughts, that interpreter becomes the pilot. It becomes the boss, so to speak, versus our awareness being the boss and saying, okay, I have all these parts of me that I need to manage. I've got the actor that sometimes doesn't know why it's taking those actions. It's doing things, and then the interpreter comes in and says, well, here's why we're doing that, because so-and-so did this to me, and now I'm going to do this. Or, gee, I felt a little bit of hunger, so I'm going to go do this. Or I smelled this, and I'm going to go do this. And in the meantime, there's this awareness part of us that can step back and go, okay, but what's the best action to take? Is that the best action to take? Do I need to get back at somebody because they cut me off on the road, or, whatever? And so that awareness part is who we are. That awareness part is what we're developing in our meditation time. And I just thought that was such a wonderful article. I always like the science piece of that. I think science has a long way to go to catch up with consciousness, but it's okay. In the meantime, we practice what we practice because we are experiencing the value in being the observer of ourselves and mindfully watching our thoughts and actions so that we are working in the best interest of our best self. So anyway, we're going to practice today in our meditation time just watching the narrator and watching how important it thinks it is, because we've identified with it and given it value and authority over the years. And it's okay. We're just going to watch it and go, well, yeah, I think you might need to be demoted. It's okay, because you do some things for us. You balance. You're great at balancing a checkbook. We don't do that anymore, right? We just look online. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. There's tasks at hand that need to be done, and that narrator is really helpful in helping our awareness be methodical to get something done. But the rest of the time, it just doesn't have anything to do. So it, stands by the stands by the water cooler and gossips, and we don't need that. We don't need that in our consciousness. So we're just going to watch that narrator and not judge it either. Just let it. If we don't believe it, if we don't identify with it, the power isn't there. We are not giving it the power that we have before. And so we're just going to put that power and that presence on our center as the narrator does its thing on the side. And we're going to feel that empowerment of our presence and awareness. So if you're not already comfortable, I invite you to get comfortable where you are. Take a couple of deep breaths to switch gears. That's a lot of information, and you can check back in with it later. But right now, we're just going to use our breath to settle into the body. Let the body settle into the physical space you're in, chair, bed, couch, wherever you are. And find that place within you that feels grounded, where your awareness feels grounded. Maybe it's where your body feels grounded as well, but someplace where you can put your attention and just rest there. I've shared before that I like visualizing my heart, and I'm just plopping down on the top of my heart and hanging out there, just listening, watching, being. But find that place that feels like that for you. Maybe it's in your bottom in the chair, where you just are just sitting, relaxing, letting go. Your feet on the floor, feeling that connectedness with the earth. Just let your attention be there. Feel your breath, just natural and easy. Check in with that breath once in a while to make sure it's still moving. Sometimes that interpreter or that narrator can say things that land a little funny, or that make us feel we have to think about it more. And we're just going to use our center and our breath to come back to that observer awareness. Just letting the chit chat of that left brain interpreter just go on the side. If we can help it be still, that's great. But we're not trying to force anything. That just adds energy to it. So it's going to let it do its thing, letting our awareness be at our center. I'd even be reinforcing to just to just briefly say, it's not real. Those words that are coming from that mind, that left brain, they're echoes, they're not validated information. Just being able to see it from your center, observing that chatter, not real. That center is real. We are feeling it, we are experiencing it. And perhaps you can feel the magnification, this gentle, loving intensification of that groundedness as you recognize the the falseness of the unreliability of that narrator. It can be so relieving not to have to follow its orders, like we've been doing for so long. And when we're not taking orders from that narrator, we open our minds and hearts to more expanded awareness. What people call that intuition, that connects us to information from higher places, from our connection to all creation. And beyond creation. I'm just moved right now to expand this experience that we're sharing together. Look at the world around us and to see how our beautiful brothers and sisters and others are being driven by their own false narrator. Not a judgment, it's just a noticing. compassion. And we can hold this awareness within ourselves. Doing this together is creating a big circle of awareness right now. And just hold that awareness for all of humanity. Every left brain narrator is false and causes us to identify falsely. Or simply the awareness that sees it. That grounded, peaceful, quiet, powerful awareness. Continue to hold this space for ourselves and for all of those that we come in contact with today. Just hold, see if you can hold that. Watch within yourself. Watch that false voice try to control and convince you. And then just as you recognize its falseness, go to your center. And ask, what is that center saying is true? Just practice with that and see what happens. And when we're interacting with others, let us have that insight as we're listening to somebody else, that they're interpreters telling them stories as well. And what's true about them is this grounded, peaceful awareness in them at whatever capacity they have to be in that. It's not judgment. It's compassionate discernment. Because we can hold the space for other people to experience themselves in a new way. Doing that for ourselves is first, always, and most important. And as we do that for ourselves, it is a gift to all those around us. We're taking this awareness into our day, our week ahead. I invite you to continue holding this awareness longer today, if you can, if you have time. If you need to go about your day, and I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths to switch gears, not back into the left brain, but it's bringing that awareness into your body and your chair and the space around you, bringing that light, that awareness. What other word is there? To your presence. Thank you for being here with me today. So grateful for this opportunity to share this with you, not just the article, but the experience. Have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.